Let's take a look at a very, very interesting hand where Tom Dwan and Rui Cao battle it out in a very casual, very friendly 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 euro game where Tom takes his 7-2 offsuit against Rui's 8 high.
If Tom can win this hand with 7 deuce,
now I have many fans.
10k bounty from everyone. Oh my god, he's calling with 8 high. He doesn't have anything. 655,000 euro in the middle. One's got 7 deuce, one's got 8 high.
About 500?
About a bit less than 4.
This is the craziest hand I've ever seen. He goes all in.
I'm drunk enough.
I don't understand.
2-7, right?
Let's see how this plays out.
We go, just. We go.
I'm drunk enough.
No, everybody drink.
I'm drunk enough.
Tony.
Okay.
We'll drink.
Can you give me a draft beer, please?
Yeah, we celebrate my maiden title.
Celebrate for you, I drink.
Yeah, celebrate many times.
First champion. Oh my god. Okay, I need some
Can
training
finally
now.
relax.
I actually feel like I need to try to play good instead of
Poker
trying to
is
play
so
bad.
hard. I'm the biggest fish in town.
No, there's Tom.
Are you
People are flying in now. And there's me. So you're not too bad.
And there's me too, and everybody knows me. There's like meat.
Is it?
No.
3-6.
Bro, why do you have so many hands?
Why you always ruined?
If Tom can win this hand with 7 deuce,
Now I have many fans.
10k bounty from everyone.
Now I win one title.
Wait, he didn't even go
I
yet.
won today.
Oh, everybody's drunk now. Okay.
Yes, first Triton title.
Yeah.
But it's my 4th title.
Tom raises it up to 12,000 euros with the 7-2 offsuit. You may say, why? Well, this is a game where if you win the pot with the 7-2 offsuit, either because you get a bluff through or because you win at the showdown with the best hand, you collect 10,000 euros from each player. So you should probably play the 7-2, and Tom does make a standard 3 big blind raise. On the button, Cao with the 8-7 offsuit decides to 3-bet to 36,000, which is definitely loose, definitely splashy, and to be fair, probably not a really good bluffing hand because you do not want to have a 7 in your hand when you are bluffing in a game where you want your opponents to have the 7-2, right? If you have a 7 in your hand, you make it less likely that they have the 7-2, which means they are now less likely to fold because you have a 7 in your hand. So you really don't want to be bluffing with hands containing a 7 in the game where the 7-2 bounty is in play. So probably not the best selection of hand, but whatever. It seems like Cao from the Table Talk is playing lots of hands, and 8-7 is better than 7-3, so you might as well 3-bet it. Back around to Tom Dwan. If you think Cao is 3-betting a ton, and it sounds like he is, you probably want to fight fire with fire here and put in a medium-ish 4-bet to something like $90,000. That's going to put Cao in a scenario where he's going to shove it all in sometimes, and obviously he's going to be shoving into your nut hand some portion of the time. And also it sets up a scenario where you can bet the flop either small or medium, and then either shove the turn or bet small on the turn and then jam the river. And I know that you're not necessarily looking to blast all your money with the 7-2 every time, but it's nice when you have the option. So I think this is a spot where Tom probably just wants to put in the 4-bet, but I think calling is also very reasonable if your opponent's range is far too wide and contains far too many bluffs, because they, in theory, are going to have to give up some portion of the time on the flop and the turn, and that's going to result in you being able to pick up some pots where they just concede. So you definitely have to continue in this spot, and Tom does continue by calling. Let's go to the flop.
3-bet and a call.
Yeah, but
Wow,
I would have thought you
happy.
I would have thought you had.
People want to become like me, businessman winning a title.
Of course.
30k c-bet from Rui Cao. Tom with just a 7 deuce. Has not laid it down yet. Does he think about making a move because Rui Cao plays every single hand?
From Southeast Asia, Thailand,
I need that.
Malaysia. Hey, Malaysia goes good.
I think we should start playing short deck.
Okay. I start. Yeah. How about we swap?
Okay.
I mean, you teach me.
No.
No.
The flop comes ace, queen, 5. Tom checks the 7 high. Cao decides to make a 30,000 continuation bet, which I think is fine and standard on this ace queen 5 board, this is a spot where if Tom does not have an ace, he's going to be in a pretty tough scenario. And even if Chow is drastically over bluffing, some of those over bluffs are going to be with hands like ace X offsuit. So I definitely think this is a spot where you continuation bet pretty wide. Now, over to Tom. I think folding is definitely viable and definitely reasonable, but as you think your opponent's range contains more and more total garbage, like 8-7 offsuit, maybe 8-6 offsuit, maybe 10-9 offsuit, etc., I definitely think putting in a raise is reasonable. Now, you do have to be careful in this spot because if you are raising too tightly for value, you cannot raise all that often as a bluff. And there certainly are plenty of sporadic bluffing hands you may want to have on this board, like random gut shots, and also all your 7-2s. So if you are only check raising with hands like ace-queen, ace-5 suited, pocket fives, that's not actually all that many value hands. So this is a spot where it's very easy to check raise bluff too often, unless you're going to check raise for thin-ish value with hands like ace-jack, ace-10, ace-9, etc. But that starts to get a little bit dicey in a relatively deep stacked game. So I think you should probably check raise a 7-2 in this scenario, but it may actually be over bluffing. But to be fair, over bluffing is probably fine if your opponent's going to have a whole bunch of unpaired hands in their range. So Tom does go for the raise, and I presume that's going to be the end of the hand.
Every day in our game, I cannot let him improve.
I mean,
A raise to 126,000 euro with 7 deuce, ready to show everyone
Maybe not, he's thinking.
if he can take this down.
maybe.
But Rui Cao has not folded yet.
Losing.
Is he wondering why Tom would raise on the ace queen 5 rainbow instead of trying to slow play against? Oh my god, he's calling with 8 high.
I was clearly wrong. Chow decides to call. Why in the world would he call here? Well, maybe, just maybe, he thinks Tom would not check raise the flop for value with much of anything, because if Tom did have a strong value hand, like let's say ace queen or ace 5 or pocket fives, he may really want to keep Chow in the pot. Therefore, if he does check raise, it means he really does not want Chow in the pot, which means he's probably bluffing. The problem, though, is that a lot of the bluffs, or at least some of the bluffs, beat Chow's 8 high, except for the 12 combinations of the 7-2. So maybe he made some sort of soul read. Maybe just decided to gamble. Who knows? Let's see what happens on the turn.
I don't understand. And the turn is an ace.
We have to play 10.
No flush draw.
How much you want, Tony?
Technically, it could be like deuce 7 versus deuce 7.
Bon.
130. You have about 500?
400,000 behind.
About a bit less than 400.
400.
Wait, 400?
A little bit less is what you said.
Can Tom find a bet
Man.
or just 7 deuce on this board that is supposed to hit the 3 better?
Better structure here.
Oh, really drunk.
Go to sleep.
Oh my, he's reaching for
shooting.
chips.
Start shooting all in. Elton, you should start to do a few all ins.
Do it for all ins? Yeah. I've been trying. I just need a couple of deuce 7s, you know? Like,
Yeah, for the new 7.
yeah, you said that already.
The turn bringing the ace is pretty rough for Tom, because now there is no chance he's going to get Chow to fold out an ace. At least I don't think there is. So he has to be very careful bluffing in this scenario. And if he does check raise the flop with some gut shots, some backdoor flush draws, and all the 7-2s, he's probably a little bit too bluff heavy in this scenario. So he has to be careful that he does not end up drastically over bluffing, unless, of course, he thinks Chow's range is just still full of total garbage. But usually when someone bets 36,000 on the flop and gets raised to 110 or whatever it was, and they call, they usually have something. So what is something on ace, queen, 5? Well, it's going to be an ace or a queen. It's probably about it. Maybe he gets a little bit loose and splashy and calls with something like king, jack. So, look, if Tom decides to just give up here, I think it's perfectly viable, especially given the stack depth. Notice that Cao has 400,000 behind, and the pot is 335. So in this scenario, Tom wants to bet some amount that gives him fold equity on both the turn and the river. Or he wants to bet so big on the turn that he thinks if Cao does call, he probably has exactly an ace or better. The problem with that, though, is that number may be a lot, like close to all in. And you really don't want to be jamming this spot because when Cao does have an ace, he's obviously never folding. And he may even decide to hero call you with the queen, maybe even a 5, maybe even king high if he thinks you have all the 7-2s. So this is a tough spot where I think giving up is reasonable, but at the same time, you probably want to have some bluffs, and obviously the 7-2 is a good one because you get paid a little bit of extra money whenever you do get it through. So Tom does go for 160,000. I think that's fine and reasonable. And I again presume this is going to be the end of the hand because 8 high is not very good on the ace, queen, 5 ace board.
It's actually okay not to play it.
Under the
It's
gun.
not that big a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Under the gun.
Yeah.
Exact position,
Half
you gotta
pot
play it.
bet, and Rui Cao calls with 8-7 high, thinking that Tom.
I was wrong again. Cao decides to call. Why in the world would he call at this point? Well, interestingly enough, if he thinks that Tom's value range does not contain as many ace queens and ace 5s as it should from a GTO point of view, and he probably never has aces or queens because he would 4-bet those pre-flop, he's not losing to very many combinations of ace queen and ace 5. Ace 5 suited only, probably. And notice there are 12 combinations of 7-2. And perhaps he thinks that if Tom is bluffing with a hand like king 10, he may just give it up on the river, which will allow Cao to then jam the river and win the pot. So if in some world he thinks Tom does not check raise nearly as many value hands as he could on the flop, and he check raises all 7-2s, maybe floating is okay. That's what he does. All right, let's find out how this goes on the river.
He's got nothing, and he's going to steal it from him.
Yeah, it makes sense. Is he investing like 400k to win 7?
I know.
It can work. It's the work. Pre-flop is a little scary.
The river brings a king, and before I even say what I would do in this scenario, I want you to think about what you would actually do in this spot in Tom Dwan's shoes. We know that the 7-2 offsuit bluff would, probably get through, but would you actually go all in this scenario for 240,000 euros effective into the 655,000 pot, giving your opponent pretty good odds? I don't think I would. I mean, this is a scenario where, assuming Cao is anywhere near competent, I know he is because he's playing these high-stakes games on a regular basis, he's going to have a lot of aces here, and an ace is just not going to fold. So I think you just have to give up. Now, I understand in this spot, if you did shove it all in, he'd probably get the ace high or the 8 high to fold, but there's no way Tom can know this, and I think his only option in this spot now is to just check, concede the pot, and move on.
655,000 euro in the middle. One's got 7 deuce, one's got 8 high, who's floated the flop and floated the turn.
Every other minute we have.
man.
You know?
Now it's starting to get tense in here as they realize what's going on at the table. Can Tom fire one more time? He gives up. Gives the pot to Rui Cao. Double checks the cards.
Over to Cao, and interestingly enough, I don't know if he should bluff with this 8 high. You may say, why not? Isn't that the only way he can win? Well, the answer is no, because if Tom is going to protect his checking range by checking some aces, and maybe even checking with hands like King Jack and King 10 that got there, planning to check call, because Cao could easily have 7-2 himself, I think this is a spot where you probably want to check it back, because a lot of Tom's bluffs, they get to the river and then give up, are going to be exactly 7-2, right? So unless Tom has random hands like Jack 9 of hearts, 10 9 of hearts, etc., that would obviously fold to a river shove, you don't really want to bet the 8 high because I'm not entirely sure an ace or a king is ever folding to a relatively small river bet. Weird spot, right? Obviously, as Tom's range contains more random 5s or queens that you lose to that will fold to river shove, you should be more inclined to shove. But given the way Cao floated the flop and the turn with the 8 high, it really seems like he thinks Tom has a whole lot of just total nonsense bluffs, almost all of which he has to presume is 7 high. So I'm not sure he should jam. Let's see what happens.
This is the craziest hand I've ever seen. He goes all in.
To 7.
Still 7, right? Yeah. Why did you check then? And you
Because he snap called me if I shove.
Queen 10. Queen 9.
Fuck you! I know you had you 7. Let's go. You shove my card.
Oh my god.
You're fucking 8 high.
You shove. I swear to God, I called. I swear to God, I called.
Rui Cao rips it all in, wins the pot, sends Tom away from the table to get some food. They all celebrate, and Rui collects a very, very, very sweet pot with the 8 high. I would not have won the hand like he did, but he did. He stole it, saved everybody at the table 10,000 euros, and they can all celebrate together. That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a quick favor. Click the like and subscribe buttons down below. Also click the notification bell. I appreciate all of you being here. Have a great week. I hope all of your 8 high calls and bluffs work out. Huge thanks to Triton Poker for letting us use this footage. And goodness gracious, this was a fun one.